Okay, hi, my name's James. I'm from the small indie team in Wynnum called HCT Games. We've released 5 games in the last year. We just make fun little arcade games for mobile, just on Google Play right now, soon to be released on iOS. I do all the art and the music there. Reese does all the programming, 2-man team. But yes, today I will be talking about creating a memorable moment in your video game using game mechanics. So let's get this lightning talk going. Yeah. All right, so what makes a moment memorable in a video game? A lot of people, they find a glitch or something. So I don't know if anyone ever had a 64 and they used to deliberately take out the cartridges bit and everything will go spastic. No. You know, maybe someone who's playing a game, they'll find a glitch where your arms stretch or something like that. They'll find a temporary weapon upgrade. You know, maybe for 3 seconds you'll shoot 10 times the amount of bullets or something. Others are Easter eggs. So these can be memorable moments, but they cannot be relied on to create an experience for everyone, because not all players will come across these, obviously. Not everyone's going to figure out that in GoldenEye, if you take out the cartridge a bit, everything starts going jittery. Cutscenes are good to make a moment, but they cut out the interaction between the player and the actual game. So if you're playing Halo and Master Chief jumps out a window and he's shooting at some enemies or something like that, and you're like, that's nice, I wish I could have really done that. But so yeah, we're going to talk about how you do that with mechanics. So first of all, I'll quickly go over what is happening behind the scenes when you're playing a game. So when you're playing a game, it's just like having a conversation with someone. So when you have a conversation with someone, you get to know what sort of person they are. You're like, okay, this person sounds like they've had too much coffee. This person sounds like they're worn out. I don't know, something like that. So interactivity includes 2 participants, which is the player and the computer. The user expresses intent to the computer by pressing a button. And then the computer will send back a message saying, this is what happens when you push the button, this is how your character controls. So we instantly know how our character is being controlled just after the one push of the button. And we know if our character is sluggish, if they're helpless. So for example, in Call of Duty, I'm referencing games I don't really like, but in Call of Duty, there's scenes where your character, I don't know, he has a broken leg or something, and you know, he may start limping, and you know, oh, my character's weak, he's not really good to fight. So yeah, this helps the player understand how the game is played. So if it's a stealth game, if it's an action game, you know, the character will be a lot more agile. And yes, and I'll talk about what we tried to do in our very first game called Hey on Google Play. Hey is just a game where you're a dog, you're behind a fence. We made this in a couple of weeks. Things go past the fence, you've got to tap on them, intercept them, and bark at them. And when you do that, you get a point. Woo. And if you miss 3, your dog gets put in the kennel. But yeah, we're like, oh cool, this is all just basic and everything. And we're like, well, let's try and juice this up. We decided to make a little Atari character pop up. I think there's a 10% chance for him popping up every time. When you click on him, everything changes to Atari graphics. And the music even becomes lo-fi as well. The problem with this, it wasn't very memorable. When we asked people about, you know, oh, did you like the Atari bit? They were like, huh? So we're like, oh yeah. And the reason why it wasn't memorable is because it didn't change up anything. It didn't add anything. It was just a skin, basically. It didn't serve as anything else. So that was a failure on our part, but we will do better. Also, Hey is out on Google Store right now for free. So 2 notable examples, just real quick, of memorable moments in video games that were very subtle, well, except for Far Cry 3. But in Halo Combat Evolved, at the beginning of the 2nd level, the player, they exit the small little escape capsule into a big open world, and it's a very narrow space. And when they released Halo, they wanted the world to know, okay, this is the Xbox, this is the next big shooter, it's the next big thing. The very first level of Halo, you're in tight corridors, you know, like a lot of the first-person shooters were in those days. And then they want, in the 2nd level, when you go out into the big open world, they're like, all right, this is the new first-person shooter. You've got this big world to explore. It's no longer about fighting down tight corridors and just ducking behind a box and being like, you can now run around, get in cars and splat people, and Yeah, so that was all done deliberately. It's very subtle, but it's very awesome. Far Cry 3, you eat some mushrooms, you get high, and you experience audible and visual hallucinations. The environment warps and distorts. It's interesting. I just wanted to chuck that one in there. But anyway, now our main example is from a game called Oddworld: Abe's Odyssey. I'm sure, I don't know, have most of you heard of it? Yeah? Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's from 1997. It came out on PS1 and also Windows or DOS. It's a stealth cinematic platformer, stuff that. And yeah, it has one of the best examples of a memorable moment in a video game and how subtly it was put in there and has an amazing build-up. Just for fun, I'll quickly go over the aesthetics of Abe that communicates to the player what sort of character he is and how this game is played. So Abe is meant to be vulnerable. Just by looking at him, we see that he's got big dopey feet, big dopey hands, big cute eyes, he's skinny. He doesn't really look like he's going to be, I don't know, leaping around or shooting enemies anytime soon. He looks pretty harmless, creepy but harmless. But yeah, he doesn't appear to be aggressive. We don't aggressive. It doesn't look like we're gonna, you know, run around in the Master Chief costume or anything like that. So when we first start playing the game, the conversation that we have with the game, it tells us, well, first of all, we press right, and Abe moves on a grid-based system. So there's a little bit of a delay before he stops again. And when he moves, there's a little bit of a startup, and then he stops. So the movement is slow and stiff and grid-based. And what this tells us straight away from the first button push is, oh God, my character moves very, very stiff. I don't think I can run away very fast, for example. When you jump, there's even a bigger delay, and he even jumps on a grid as well. I think he moves about 3 spaces. And when he lands, there's also audio cues to show that that was a lot for Abe to handle. He'll jump, he'll go, ugh! And that also signals to us, okay, this character, man, I'm not going to be facing any evil aliens anytime soon. But he does have an attack. He doesn't have any weapons, but he has a possessing power. And when we use it, I think it's about maybe 3 to 5 seconds before we can actually possess someone to become stronger. But before we do that, if they catch us while we're possessing, Abe gets killed. So we have to get to a safe spot, and because the game's already told us how vulnerable we are, and the game is about slow movement, planning out each step you take, making sure you don't really stuff up. It's very fragile, the gameplay. So now this is where the game gets really, really interesting. We set up for our moment. We meet this enemy called the Parameteor. The Parameteor, he looks creepy. He first crawls onto the screen, and we go, oh no, that thing's going to kill us. But he stops and he looks at us, and they're very timid. And if we walk away from that, which is usually our first reaction, he'll walk up to us with a very sort of, almost like a cute walk, like as if he's curious. And if we walk over to him, he'll run away. And if we follow him, and he'll suddenly get cornered on the next screen, I believe it is, he will turn around and start hissing at us, signaling for us to run away. And if we come any closer, he'll start chasing us, and we're like, okay, sure. And we figure out that how this enemy works. And we also find out that if there's 2 Parameteors, they'll all chase you, and they work in packs. So yeah, we realize how the game is played, how this one particular enemy works, and also how Abe, how fragile he is. So, and this all builds up to this amazing moment. The video's on the next slide. Oh, way. So yeah, you're in the Parameteor nest. Suddenly, the game turns from slow, stiff, grid-paced movement. You're fighting that to make quick decisions. You're constantly running. You don't really have time to think even. All the spaces are tight, and every part of the level is linear. So all of the Parameteors will be forced to run after you, because every turn you take, they are being cornered. And there's numerous Parameteors as well. So what they've done, the conversation that we've originally had with the game, we know what sort of game it is, and suddenly the game's gone bipolar on us. It's been like, all right, well, you're restricted to this sort of movement, playing the game this sort of way, and now you have to use that to play it this sort of way. And that's where it goes up to the moment. This is the video of the part. So he goes up here, and instantly they got to start running. This is a speed runner as well. And there's like a minute more of the video, so I'll just skip that. But yeah, so nowhere else in the game are we forced to run for our lives to get through a section. And it only happens for that 1 minute of the game, and the rest of the game is mostly made around stealth and a bit of puzzles. But we know that the game's a stealth game strictly through how we know that we want to keep Abe alive. We know that this character is not very good and he's going to die at the drop of a penny, basically. But yeah, it wasn't communicated really through telling us the game's a stealth game. So for example, giving us a button where Abe will, I don't know, lean up against the wall and shimmy across it or something like that. Yeah, we just instinctively know we have to keep him alive. So to wrap this up, gameplay was established with a conversation between the player and the computer or console. The moment was foreshadowed by letting the player become familiar with the Paramites, or whatever enemy you guys choose to use in your game. And a memorable moment was made naturally by challenging how we thought the game was meant to be played. So that's a better way of how I just worded everything before. Just some quick resources where I gained some of this knowledge. The Fundamentals of Game Design. Has anyone heard of that one? Yeah, it's a great book to reference. With anything in game design, really. If you want to know how to make a 3-dimensional character compared to a 0-dimensional character. If you're making an adventure game, for example, it'll give you nice little tips around that, how to make a good puzzle and stuff like that. And also the book Game Feel by Steve Swink, which goes a lot more into detail about the conversation we have between a player and a computer and how we can instinctively, well, let the player instinctively know how the game's played strictly through game feel, which was, you know, pressing right, Abe moves on grid base. We know that he's not going to live very long. So yes, whew. Thank you very much. Please add HCT Games on Facebook, facebook.com/HCTvideogames. HCT Games was already taken by some guys back in 2009. They haven't done anything since, so it's super annoying. But yes, whew. Any questions? Yes? Something very rude. Yeah, and it's an in-joke, and I'd probably never be allowed back here if I were to say it. But yes, it's open to interpretation. We've heard horny cane toads before, and we thought that was pretty funny. So, but yes, anything else? Hey.
So what memorable moment did you end up putting in the Hague?
Oh, we didn't. We're just like, oh man, this is way above our heads. So, but that was like, this time last year. So we're trying to incorporate that into our new game, Heaven is a Silly Place, hopefully to be released in the next 2 months. But yeah, so. Anything else?
What about other games that you've made?
Other games?
Did you get memorable moments into them?
They're mostly arcade games, but we have a design doc for a game that's a platformer adventure game. So had to figure it out. I'm not as smart as these guys, but it's really good to pick it up. But yeah, so no. Yes?
How do you approach making games as quickly and as short and compact as you guys make games?
We have a very particular workflow. I guess we just sort of stick to it. It takes time, honestly. A lot of our textures are hand painted. Our characters are very, very low poly, which shaves off a lot of time. Animations are usually pretty basic. So pretty much just trimming down any extras that you don't need. But yeah, cool. Sweet. Thank you.